Well, I wasn't quite sure if I was going to have to make a video on this quite so soon. However, if you've been paying attention to the live streams I've been doing, I've been going over a pretty extensive coverage of the DFD Circus Summary document that was made by Kirsche and her mods and a couple of other people in the last week. Because I spent quite a few hours going over in extensive detail, I figured today it would be important to go through a rough summary of everything found in the doc, as well as some screenshots that I felt like were most relevant to the conversation, and giving my thoughts on the situation, because after having a couple of days to sift through it, read through it, talk to both parties in DMs with extensive details, I feel like I can give myself a pretty good summary and tell people what I believe they should think on the matter. It is important to note, by the way, and I feel like I should mention now, my bias will be very apparent as this video goes on. My attempt, when I started covering this, was to approach it as somebody that did not have any stake in the game. I, for reference, like Kirsche, I like her content, I like what she does, and I have found the fact that she had to take time out of her busy day to sit and write this document to be very unfortunate. With that being said, I feel like now, having gone through it and having talked to people, I feel like this document is necessary, and I also believe that whisperings mentioning that more like this will come out are definitely necessary to address problems that have been happening in the space for quite a long time. I ask that if you watch this video, you also go through the document that will be provided in the description. With that out of the way, let me go ahead and let's talk very briefly about the individuals at play here that took place inside of this doc here. Not everybody that is mentioned in this doc, by the way, are guilty of associating with or by assisting in the crimes taking place in this video. The only individuals that I will be highly critical over are the four main ones that are addressed at the beginning of this document. People may be mentioned in passing. However, I believe that the only judgment that I will reserve for the most part in this video is for the four people that will be mentioned. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and start talking about these individuals. Now, once again for context, the only individual out of this entire document that was mentioned that I talked to was Short Fat Otaku. The entire time that I talked to him, he seemed, for the most part, willing to talk and divulged a bunch of information that I honestly did not think I would ever see coming from him. I know now that there is potentially a reason for that, and I will give my thoughts on that in the end of this video. Short Fat Otaku, who is perhaps now the main aggressor in the drama today, is an individual that has his past when it comes to the skeptic community and Gamergate. I am not very familiar in how he got his start. All I know is that he was a massive shit stirrer back in those years, and that he had done many things that turned people off to his content. I'm not going to mention those things because I don't have them to pull up. However, when people tell me not to trust him and not to talk to him because he is a shit stirrer, I am willing to trust them based off of what I have seen. One of the people that is associated with him, and the individual that I believe is the crux and the beginning of this entire campaign, is Dragon Fat Deposits. Dragon Fat Deposits is somebody that has not only been the main harasser for Kirsche for the past 2 years, but she is also a moderator for Short Fat Otaku, and I believe very closely that there is things related to them that we do not know and may never know. Short Fat Otaku has multiple times, both in my messages and on Twitter, said that she has nothing to do with this and she is only blowing off steam. However, there are multiple screenshots, ones that I will bring up on the screen here, that show that not only is she instigating and wanting to spill drama, she multiple times has said that she has spies spying on Kirsche in her server and will use them in order to gain information for whatever reason that she wants. Multiple times after the fact, DFT will try to claim that they are not in any gay ops and have only been trying to blow off steam for comments said towards one of their friends, which is Spooky. Spooky is an infamous name in the VTuber community. I don't know very much about his backstory or really what he has done. All I do know is that he is an infamous individual and has hurt people with his past. Due to this, Kirsche, when she was asked by DFD to have a collab with Spooky, denied it on its face and decided to not interact with him. Because of this, I believe this is why DFD decided to go on this hate tirade against Kirsche and do what she has done. The only other individual that is worth mentioning, and some people may be upset that this individual is mentioned, but the last individual in this entire thing is Raging Bull / Rage. Rage, while not having a gigantic contribution to this entire situation, has been seen multiple times being a shit stir and trying to do quite a lot of things in order to perpetuate the gay ops that has taken place. The other problem that I have with Rage is that he has gone around using the weight of trying to mention people that he knows or that he is good with in order to try and shift his weight around. I find this to be very irresponsible, as the individuals that he has mentioned, due to their involvement with Rage and his dealings, have put them on this document. Whether or not you agree that individuals that he mentioned should be put on this document or not, the thing that is most important, in my opinion, is whether or not the association with somebody who is willing to drag you down in the mud is warranted. I do not believe in guilt by association, and I have and will continue to say that guilt by association is not something that you should be concerned with. However,
they will not stop. They will not stop. All they will do is implicate more and more people in their actions, which is why when you associate with people who are willing to roll around in shit and lie about others and use people for their own gains, you are going to get dragged down much the same. It's not a guilt by association thing, it's a these people will drag you down. And people, when you associate with these people, other normal people will look at you and be like, well, we already know everything that these people have done. We know what they're willing to do. We know how they act. Why is that person interacting with them? And most content creators will not give the benefit of the doubt. They'll just see, oh, X is interacting with Y. They're probably the same kind of person. Don't interact. Noted. And it's unfair, right? But it's like, the people that you are friends with, and even if you're not friends with them, people will perceive that you're friends with them if you do stuff with them regularly. Because that's just how optics work. People will attribute the aspects of the bad person to yourself as well.
Before we go through the timeline, I would just like to mention really quickly that you should read the document in its entirety in conjunction with listening to my video. I do not know how long this video would be at the time of this recording, but I do not believe that this will completely supplement or take over the need to read every single word and every single screenshot that is inside this document. I do not believe that you will get a complete picture unless you do so. With that out of the way, let's go through point by point what has happened from the view of Kirsche, her mods, and specific individuals that have seen the things take place. Point number 1. In December of 2022, DFD asked a former mod of Kirsche about a collab with Spooky. And because Spooky has a past that Kirsche knew roughly about, this was turned down. Point number 2. About a month later, Mr. Personality, who is another individual that you will occasionally see in this document, messaged Kirsche on stream about Spooky. Kirsche made an off-comment remark that didn't really go as deep, and it was basically, why bully the femboy?
Yeah, I know this VTuber. I know this VTuber that you're talking about, Mr. Personality, and I'm not even gonna put it on stream. I'm sorry I accused you of possibly liking this VTuber. I'm sorry I accused you of that. That's my bad. Okay, alright.
Because of this misunderstanding, DFD decided that she no longer wanted to watch Kirsche. However, it should be noted that Spooky did not really care that much. In January of the next year, it was found out that DFD had blocked Kirsche on Twitter, and due to people not knowing what her intentions were, and due to her being in Kirsche's Discord server and having access to one of Kirsche's restricted channels, they decided to remove their access from the channel. It should be noted that the Not Safe for Work channel, which is mentioned here, is a channel where more intimate details about politics and thoughts and opinions are given. Because of this, potentially, that she was removed from the Not Safe for Work channel, DFD decided to re-show up in the server later and become more interactive, unblocking Kirsche and following her on Twitter. In February, it is seen that screenshots from Kirsche's server are put in Short Fat Otaku's server, and people suspect that DFD is the one that is doing it. In April of 2023, a couple of months later, Raging Bull, who is again the other member in this whole document, messages one of Kirsche's mods and asks that DFD get the access back to the Not Safe for Work channel. This was obviously denied. Point number 3. In June, Short Fat Otaku enters the picture. DFD brings him into the Kirsche server, and Short Fat Otaku and Kirsche have, for the most part, a cordial conversation. Because of this conversation, and as a direct result, DFD is banned from Kirsche's server, and it is supposed that she may have been recording voice chats. Short Fat Otaku denies that he is involved in any of DFD's actions, and Kirsche asks him to remember that because she is one of his mods, that they reflect the streamer. Point number 4. DFD goes ahead and begins talking shit, mentioning that she has eyes everywhere and is willing to cause more drama with Kirsche. She claims that she enjoyed Kirsche and worshipped her, but went ahead and dropped her after her opinion of Spooky. Point number 5. Spooky would then claim that Kirsche had shit-talked him without good reason or evidence. When questioned for proof by one of Kirsche's community members, Spooky went ahead and denied all of this. Point number 6. DFD would contact Winged Hussar, who is one of their friends, and says that they feel betrayed by them, and that SFO wants to speak with him. It should be noted that Winged Hussar has connections with both communities, and I personally believe he is one of the more innocent individuals that was brought in for practically no reason. By Short Fat Otaku, not by Kirsche. Point 7. Roughly 3 months later, a third party that was not connected with Kirsche's community went ahead and notified one of Kirsche's mods about DFD claiming to be collecting dirt on Kirsche to be dropped when she, quote-unquote, makes it. Point number 8. In September of 2023. 11 days later, Kirsche went ahead and would appear on Archcast with V, Arch, and Short Fat Otaku. It should be noted that Kirsche was a little unfamiliar with the show and did not know that Short Fat Otaku would also be a guest on the show at the same time. After the Archcast, Kirsche would be contacted by Short Fat Otaku, where she confronts him on the actions of his moderator. See the above. Point 7. After speaking to her, Short Fat Otaku provides claims that DFD is not running gay ops on Kirsche and has no plans to use the information, and DFD was just being angry about Winged Hussar backstabbing her, which Short Fat Otaku believes Winged Hussar also did. Kirsche would provide direct evidence that DFD was claiming to be collecting information. Short Fat Otaku would deflect and say that he is talking about Winged Hussar's betrayal. He would also then deny being complicit in their actions. Kirsche would explain why she believes that DFD is angry with her, and DFD would deny disliking Kirsche at all prior to Kirsche talking to Short Fat Otaku, despite the fact, again, that they were blocked on Twitter. It should be noted, by the way, that a correction was made to this document. There are multiple of them, by the way, where Kirsche had forgotten that technically her and Short Fat Otaku had talked before Archcast, about 2 months before her scheduled appearance. And she basically forgot everything that happened. And not only that, it happened 2 hours before a big stream of hers. During this conversation, Short Fat Otaku does say that he doesn't have to show up if she doesn't want him to. And she says that she doesn't want to take away from him being on the show. She will still maintain, after all this time though, that at the time of her attending the show, she was not familiar with it. She thought that Short Fat Otaku was an infrequent guest and did not know that he would be on the same day as her. Point number 9. An hour and 30 minutes after Kirsche's conversation with Short Fat Otaku, he would go ahead and talk to Arch. During this conversation, Kirsche would reach out to Arch to ask if she would be able to obtain a screenshot of the DMs where she already knows that Short Fat Otaku has said something to him regarding her. Not only does Arch decline, but Arch then goes to Short Fat Otaku and tells him that Kirsche is trying to get screenshots of his conversations with people. Short Fat Otaku would start the conversation with, "Remember this?" quote unquote, implying that they have discussed the drama between DFD and Kirsche before. Short Photo Taku would then proceed to lie about the conversation, reaffirming his view of the situation, leaving out details of Kirsch's view on it. He would claim that he doesn't believe that DFD is running gay ops, leaving out the fact that he was shown direct evidence of DFD saying that she is collecting information. He would also claim that Kirsche is saying that Short Photo Taku was complicit in the gay ops that he doesn't believe is happening. Despite all of these claims, later that day, Short Photo Taku would reveal that he admits to Reese Prime that he is being leaked information on Kirsche's server in real time, that he knows Kirsche's server is being spied on by DFD, and admits that DFD was performing gay ops but not stopped, while Short Photo Taku is actively leaked information on DFD's source. On October 1st, later that day, a post was dropped on the PCG board of 4chan with an email for LuminousCove detailing a pile of evidence about Kirsche's server, containing records of users and mods making uncouth statements, offensive jokes, and an entire archive of the server. This has since been verified, actually, that has been sent and was not a bluff. The timing of this, especially with DFD claiming to want to do such a thing, is extremely suspicious. Now, side comment here. Side comment here. We do not have, and I personally do not believe we ever will have, direct proof that DFD ever said that she actually did this. She does not admit this in any of the screenshots, as far as I have seen. However, and I will make this comparison again and ask that you think about this. This is a bit of a wonky comparison, but when somebody is murdered and you previously had said that you don't like them and you want them dead and that you would constantly talk about it, and then that person ends up dead and people know that you have talked about this, who is everybody going to look at and point at first? I know this is a bit of an outlandish thing to think of, but I just want people to think. Because again, while I do not have direct evidence, and I don't think DFD will ever admit this in the entirety of their life, I believe full-throated that she did this. I believe that she did this. I believe when she says she can get information on Kirsche and her server. I believe Short Photo Taku when he says that he sees the server being spied on and that he does not care. And I believe that this happened. I do not know why, specifically, Short Photo Taku didn't care. I do not know why he decided not to stop it, especially when, again, he said, I see it and I don't care. But that's not a question I can have answered. That's not a question that I feel like I will get the answer to. Reese Prime would be contacted by Short Photo Taku around the same time with the message, quote, I know. Kirsche mentions the 4chan post in Not Safe for Work 3, and Raging Bull reveals that he has been speaking with Short Photo Taku and that he saw the post in Parrot 4chan's Discord. Short Photo Taku claims his message was, quote, just a joke, and reveals that he's been leaked information from Kirsche's Discord in real time. DFD laughing at the post, quote, she didn't have to worry about me, and discussing it with Short Photo Taku would then take place. Raging Bull would take screenshots from the Parrot Court and share them, and Short Photo Taku would continue to speak with Reese Prime. Short Photo Taku would again reiterate his view, claiming that DFD is not running gay ops, claiming that DFD did not dislike Kirsche, claiming that he is not responsible for what his mods do, and he won't demod them, and claiming that Kirsche's point of the situation is wrong. Short Photo Taku, again, knows that the server is being spied on, and doesn't care, since people have been giving Kirsche information from his server. Short Photo Taku, again, claims that he isn't involved in DFD's gay ops, and they have stopped after the outburst, but would immediately afterwards say, the only reason, quote, the only reason DFD is having her source leak me information now is because Kirsche is talking about me, and threatens Kirsche, quote, with, Kirsche's unhinged behavior behind the scenes multiple times. I have enough to actually do a hit piece on her. Now, with those first 10 points out of the way, that, I believe, in most of its entirety, covers the events from the beginning to the initial leak of this email that was sent to LuminousCove. To his credit, never did anything about it, probably because he knows that this is all freaking stupid and decided just to not touch it. I did want to cover this in one video. I've mentioned multiple times that I felt like I only needed to make one more video. However, it's not going to be one video. This video is going to go up, and I am going to work on more videos. In fact, I'm going to spend literally all of the next week of my life working on the rest of these videos until I've gone through everything, until I can make all of my points known. However,